Hey girl, hey, it's your girl Mya Kay, and we are back with the third episode of the Locker Room Podcast. What's going on, girlfriend? I am so excited about this episode because we get to break down one of our favorite passages of scripture. And even though I don't know you, I know it's one of your favorites because we all say it. If you're a disciple of Christ, you are always quoting Psalm 23 in some way, shape, or form. But God wants you to understand it is so much deeper than what you see on the surface. And so today we're going to talk about Psalm 23 for the athlete. And God be guiding. Okay. Big Daddy be out here guiding. Listen, when I say Big Daddy, I need for y'all to get your mind out the gut. Do you know I commented on God being like daddy to me? And someone commented on I did a video, I think 2 summers ago, and this girl gonna say, I'm not even Christian, but you making me feel uncomfortable referencing him like that. But I knew it was the enemy just trying to distract me, and I blocked her before I gave her this North Philly checkpoint because I don't be playing around. But no, so but when I say that, I just mean he's a big God and he is our dad. You know, we have to learn how to see him that way. And with that, I want to just kind of check in with you guys before we get into today's episode. I'm going to warn you. I know last week's episode was only 20 minutes. Our first episode, I think, was a little under 40. This is going to be lengthy because I did a really deep dive into Psalm 23. And I was even thinking of doing it in 2 episodes, and God said no. Okay. These young ladies, all of the women listening, even if you're a pro athlete, you can still be a young lady. People go pro at 22, 23. God is saying to you, no more, 2 minute TikTok video sermons. Okay. You need to get your pen and your notebook and you need to dig in. Okay. You need to dig your heels in the same way you'll practice and you'll train for 3 and 4 hours. You need to be able to sit and listen to the word beyond a TikTok episode. You need to sit and stop letting shorts be the thing that teaches you in this season. Okay. But how you doing, girl? How's your heart? How's your muscles? If you are in recovery from an injury, how is that going for you? Actually, this is really a good episode for those who might be dealing with recovery and maybe going through some things where their season has not. I mean, this is the summer, right? When you're hearing this, this is going to be the third Friday in July, right? This is our third episode. We started July 3rd, 2026. But that doesn't mean that you could have gotten injured at the end of the season. So if your season did not go the way it was that you expected, and then the upcoming season is uncertain because of some things you're dealing with, then this episode is going to bless you immensely. But I wanted to just check in on your heart. You can send us an email at info@girlsanthem.biz just to check in, letting us know how you feel about the podcast, how much you love it. If you need to hear something and you haven't heard it yet, we just launched. This is the first season, so bear with us. But I do understand that as you listen, you're like, wow, okay, this made me think of this. So it's your favorite coach, Mya Kay. Okay, and we get ready to get into this episode. But listen, the first two was a little heavy, but this one, especially that first one, this one is going to be lighter because you get to rest. And even Psalm 23 tells you about resting. Does it not talk to you about the importance of resting? So today's locker room huddle. As a female athlete, you have more than just your coaches. You also have a shepherd. And oftentimes we recite Psalm 23 passively, like it has no power. We quote the scriptures, we buy the t shirt, we post it on our IG bio, but do we really understand the power of Psalm 23? If this is one of your favorite passages, then this episode is for you. But even if it's not, or you've never even heard of it before, maybe you're new to the Christian space, or you're like, I heard about this podcast, I'm not even a believer, but you're tapping in, then this is a great place to start. But you'll want to lean in to the revelation that God gave me for this episode. So let's get ready for the game. Now, one of the things that I love about this is that because I know Psalm 23 by heart, I'm going to be quoting the New King James Version. I get to kind of focus on my notes and not have to hold the phone and read the Bible. So, of course, because there are 6 verses in the chapter, we are going to have 6 points today. Okay. So, Psalm 23 and 1. We know it. Let's say it together. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. All right, let's break this thing down. So, the word shepherd in Hebrew is actually the word ra'ah, ra'ah, and it means ruler, teacher, to be a special friend. This is why I want you to lean into this very deeply because many of you see God as a ruler, as a judge, as someone who, lays down the law. But it says here, the Lord is my shepherd, and a shepherd is a keeper, but is also a special friend. So God is not just your ruler, he is also your special friend. And you know what I love about friends and friendships? Friends have benefits that others don't have. And this means that the way God tends to you, he will tend to you in ways that he doesn't tend to those who are not his. And one of the things that I'm afraid that many of us do is we do go to God trembling. We go to God in a way where he has to almost show us that he is a shepherd and a father. Shepherds that tend to sheep, they're not yelling at the sheep or provoking the sheep. They're tender with the sheep. They understand that sheep are animals that need a different type of force. The way that someone who owns cows and horses and maybe even bulls, you know how you see the Spanish, the thing where the guy holds the flag and then the bull comes running towards them. The way that someone who owns those type of animals respond is going to be different than the way someone who owns a sheep. And so it is important in this season that you really go to God and you see him as your special friend. And this is a great way to lay the foundation for this episode because as an athlete, you may often feel like the people around you only want something from you. Your coach wants you to do better. The fans want you to win. Your teammates want you to bring your A game. Maybe even your parents want to make sure you secure that scholarship. But God, all he really asks of us is honor and worship. God, we can go to God as our shepherd. He's a special friend. And this friend is not looking for anything from us. Yes, he wants us to spend time with him and worship him, but there's no pressure when we come to God. This is where he is more concerned, again, with you being a daughter than a doer. So keep that in mind. I shall not want basically means no lack. So even when you're in his presence, this is Jordan Welsh has a song called Satisfied. Satisfied in your presence, patience. I mean, I love that song because what she's saying is even if you don't say anything, your presence is enough. And that is how God feels about you, that even if you don't say anything, his presence, your presence is enough to him. So when you go into his presence, there is no lack in his presence. Just like when you come into his presence and he's looking at you, he doesn't see any lack. Your coach may find something off with your game. The fans may be coming at you on social media. Your parents may be pressuring you because they're expecting something from you. They're looking at what you lack. But when you come to God, you shall not want. There is no lack in God. And because you are an image bearer, he does not see any lack in you. Now, that does not mean that there won't be places that need to be strengthened and matured. But when he sees you, he sees his daughter. Now, verse number 2, Psalm 23 and 2. The Lord is the first one. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. 2, he makes me to lie down in green pastures. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. I'm actually going to pull it up only because I want to make sure that I wanted to make sure that I'm not overlapping the verses. So verse 2 says, and he makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. So let's go over that. Pasture in Hebrew is na'ah. It's na'ah, okay? And what it represents is an abode. Pasture means abode, and abode is a home. And God wants you to come home and lie down to rest. And you want to know why some of you can't rest yet? Because you haven't made it home. You see home as when you go home from, if you have a break for Thanksgiving or Christmas, or even on weekends, depending on how close you live to home. If you're a collegiate athlete, you see home as your address and your zip code. But God is your home. So some of you can't rest because you haven't made it home yet. Home is his presence, where you need to be on a consistent basis. You can be in his presence without being in a church, and you can be in his presence without being in a secret place. God's presence can be around you all the time if you learn how to tap into it. I pray in the spirit sometimes when I'm driving, when I'm walking through a mall or something, and I may do it under my breath, but that is how I stay in tune with the Holy Spirit, how I stay in God's presence. So you have to learn how to come home to God so you can really rest. That's why you think, oh man, the season's over. I get to go home to be with my family and I get to rest. And you'll go home, right? And you notice that it seems like you're still busy. You're in your bedroom at home. You're no longer in the dorm room, but you're like, why can't I rest? Because you haven't made it all the way home yet. Home is more of a spiritual place in this context and not a physical one. Now it says, he leadeth me beside the still waters. That word leadeth in Hebrew is nohel, nohel. And what it means is to lead to a station or watering place and cause to rest. Oh, baby, we're going to get into it today. To lead to a station. Stations are stationary. That means it does not move and you are arriving to a place where you get to pause. And then it says, or watering place and calls to rest. Listen, we know when the woman at the well meets Jesus and Jesus tells her about her life, and he says, I will give you water that will never run out. And that is what God is offering here. He's leading you to a watering place that will refresh your soul, but it comes from a well that never runs dry. So, one of the things you're going to have to do is stop resisting what your spirit needs. Let God lead you. And you can only be led when you surrender. You can only be led when you surrender. The next word that we're going to go over there is, it says that he leads me beside the still waters. And still in Hebrew is menokal, menokal, and it means resting place. Waters is mayim, and it means refreshment. I love this because God is basically in this verse alone. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. This is so beautiful because what it says is the waters is a place of refreshing. Some of you are drinking all the water and Gatorade in the world and you still don't feel refreshed because you haven't tapped into the well that never runs dry. And that stillness, when it says still waters, that means this water is a resting place. So even though you know how you sit by a stream or a river and you can see the water moving and you can even hear it, let me tell you, when you enter the resting place of God, that water not only quenches your thirst spiritually, but it runs and you may not even hear anything. It says still waters. That means this water is a resting water. It's a place where you get refreshed in the presence of God by tapping into an unlimited source. And you have a choice. Do you want to experience this rest or not? It's up to you. Number 3, Psalm 23:3. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Now, I know I'm saying leads, but the word leadeth that they're talking about is because in the King James, it says leadeth. Okay. Psalm 23:3. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. So restores is shub. It means shub, and that means to turn back, or return. Soul means nepes, and it's basically, well, the way you pronounce it, I'm sorry, is nefesh. I said it wrong. But soul is nefesh. These are all Hebrew words in the Strong's Concordance. And what that means is desire, emotion, passion, or seat of the appetites. Desire, emotion, passion, or seat of the appetites. Now, I love the seat of the appetites because basically God wants to turn your passion back to Him, your first true love. The seat of your appetites, that's your soul. So a lot of you are frustrated because your appetite is not for God. And whatever you give, whatever you put on the throne, on that seat that is in your soul, whatever you allow to take precedence over God there, that is what your appetite is. That is what you yearn for. So He wants to be at the seat of the appetite. So have you been feeding your soul's appetite with the right stuff? Some of you have not. That's a question you have to ask yourself. So then the word righteousness, because it says He leads me in the paths of righteousness for His name's sake. Righteousness is sadak. And it says what is right or just or moral. His name's is sham, or shame rather. Shame, and it means, that's how you pronounce the Hebrew word, and it means reputation or glory. So a lot of you, He's leading into what is right or moral, but not for your name's sake, not for your name to become famous, but for His reputation and His glory. That word sake means manhan, and what it means is purpose or intent. Some of you think resting is about you coming back replenished and restored and rejuvenated to be a better athlete. But you're not resting as an athlete for you to build your strength for your name's sake, but for His. So you have to pray for strength to make Him famous, not just your jersey number. Some of you really do truly rest in order so you can make your name great and your name famous. And you do, you'll rest, and you should rest. Don't get it twisted. But some of you want to rest because you're like, oh, well, I want to rest so that I can be fit for the game. And God is trying to give you a true rest, Hebrews 4, entering that true rest that will allow you to navigate not only the game, but the terrain of life. We all know that during the season, you also face hardships. So what good is it if you are physically trained and you are physically fit, but you end up being spiritually poor or spiritually out of shape? So resting in God allows your light to shine before men so that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. That's Matthew 5:16. Now, Psalm 23 and 4, this is point number 4. Psalm 23 and 4. So I am in the King James Version now. But yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for Thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Through the valley means it's Gae. Valley is Gae in Hebrew, and it means narrow gorge. I'm going to tell you why I love this, because it made me think of, oh, this is so good to my soul. It made me think of how many people, it says in Matthew 7:13 through 14 in the New King James Version, it says, the narrow way, enter by the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction. And there are many who go in by it. Because narrow is the gate and difficult is the way which leads to life, and there are few who find it. So when you think about what I just talked about, that valley means narrow gorge. The reason why so many athletes get worn down is because not many are willing to go the narrow way to reach that place. Some people forfeit the greatest season of their life because they won't go through the valley. They're scared of the valley. They don't want to be in the valley. God never intended for the valley to be easy. Valleys refine us and lead us deeper into Christ. And many won't pass through it because it's difficult. Matthew 7 says, wide is the way of destruction. That's an easy path. But the narrow gorge that God is asking you to go through when it says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, the valley is needed. You need to go through that narrow gorge because it not only makes you a better athlete, but it'll make you a better disciple. So when it says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, death is basically distress. It's not a physical death. Okay. It is talking about things that distress you and cause you grief and frustration. And it says, I will fear no evil. This type of fear that it's speaking of is a dreadful fear. God knows you will have some fears. He's not saying that, but that dreadful fear that when you go through the valley when you go through the narrow gorge of whatever is trying to distress you, that you will not dread. And then it says, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. That word rod is a scepter. Literally, it means scepter. Sabat, and it means scepter, and it's a mark of authority. Here's what I love. It's a mark of authority. It says that nothing can happen. Well, not it says, but the Lord gave me the revelation. Nothing can happen to you in the valley that God does not authorize. Why? Because his rod is the highest authority. It says, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. And that rod, sabat, scepter. It's a mark of authority, and God's rod is the highest authority. So nothing can happen to you, Job, outside of his instruction, outside of his authority. Now, the staff is the Hebrew word mishhana, mishhana. And what it means is support. And this is a support of every kind. This means God is covering you on every side, in every way, every base. He's covering all the bases, emotional, mental, and physical. And then that word comfort means naham. Well, it's actually nakam, nakam. So the way that the Hebrew word is spelled and the way it's pronounced is different. It's spelled naham, but it's pronounced nakam. And what comfort means is to have compassion or to ease. The truth of the matter is, because I really want to get into this in a way that helps you really understand it. What God is saying in Psalm 23 and 4 is in this second half is that he basically has you covered and he will support you as you walk through that valley of the shadow of death, that you have to fear no evil. You have no evil to fear because he's covering you on all sides. So he's giving you support emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And he's comforting you, meaning he has compassion and he will not cause this to be so heavy that you can't pass through. When he provides you with a test or he sends you through a valley, it's because he knows you can overcome and you can come through on the other side. So Psalm 23 and 5, thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runs over. Okay. A lot of times we quote that, and sometimes we say it in this cocky way. God's preparing a table for me in the presence of my enemies. But let me tell you what that really means. The word prepare is arak, and it basically means to ordain, to order or ordain. Your enemy is Sarar, anyone who vexes you or causes you distress. So let's be clear, your enemy in one season could be your coach. The enemy could be using your coach to frustrate you and even to ignore you. And so it's not always just somebody who doesn't like you or people who you would call your haters. It's anyone who vexes you or causes you distress. That word anoint my head with oil is doshin, and it means to become prosperous, to grow or become fat. Now, baby, I'm about to give you something good. Why is that so important? To grow or become fat? Because if you think you're going to come out of the valley with no weight, you're tripping. God does not put you through valley times or hard times just so you can come out with no weight. You're going to have weight on you. That means you're going to be fat in the spirit, meaning that the enemy is going to know that what tripped you up last season can't trip you up this season because you've gained some fat. You've become prosperous. You've grown. You got weight on you now. You're not a lightweight. You're a heavyweight in the spirit. And not because you've been lifting more. And then runs over. My cup runs over. It's revol. Revol, y'all. Revol, y'all. And it means saturation. That means you will be saturated. Overflow must meet you first. Overflow must meet you first. And lastly, Psalm 23:6. It says, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Now, goodness is the Greek word tobe, and it means pleasant, excellent, or prosperous. That means the Lord's goodness, the Lord's prosperity, and his pleasantries will follow you all the days of your life. Mercy is hasad, and it means faithfulness. His faithfulness will follow you all the days of your life. And follow means rodef, and it means pursue or run after. That means God's goodness and mercy will run after you. His pleasantries, his prosperity, his faithfulness will pursue you, will run you down all the days of your life. And it says, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. That word dwell means yashav, and it means to remain, to abide, or to be inhabited by. That means I am going to remain and abide. I want you to study Psalm 23 alongside John 15. Abide. I'm going to abide or to be inhabited by the Lord's presence in his house. God is inhabiting you with his goodness and mercy daily. Even in the valley, it's there. And just because you don't feel it doesn't mean it's not present. His goodness has nothing to do with how you feel. We are prosperous even in trials. He's pursuing you with his prosperity. But using prosperity is, again, the points you put on the scoreboard, your coach giving you more playing time. But God's prosperity goes beyond that. Learn to remain in his house, in his habitation, and inhabited by his presence. When you learn to remain in his house, that is the one court you can never be kicked off of. You will never be ejected out of the game. That is the one court where you can remain. His habitation is his sanctuary, his space. You can create that at home. And you have to be inhabited by his presence. Now, I thought this episode was going to be longer. I pray this blessed you. So, our final score, one of the things with the final score, I want you to go back and listen to this and understand that you have a shepherd over your life. Psalm 23 is not something you say really quick because you didn't have time to pray, and that's the easiest passage for you to reach for. Psalm 23 is a covenant promise for the disciple of Christ that chooses to rest in him and trust him through the hard times in their lives. It is for those who understand that the great shepherd is not just a ruler, but he is a father. He is a friend. It is for those disciples of Christ who understand that God is not trying to just rule over you. He wants to sit with you, that he wants to partner with you. It is for those who understand that goodness and mercy have nothing to do with feelings, but it has to do with what God is doing, even when you can't see it. This is for those who understand that in order to go up another level in the game of a life and in the game of the sport you play, the game of the spiritual growth, in order for you to go up another level, you have to know how to rest in God, not do more, but actually rest more. And one of the things that I believe is so pivotal for you in this season to learn how to truly rest is to tap into the locker room cohort. I want you to join us for the 6 weeks. I want you to tap in, especially with this being the third episode. If you're listening to it in real time, that means it's the third week of July. So you still have 3 weeks to sign up, but do not wait because it's limited. If I didn't say that in the first couple episodes, you should have seen it when you went to the landing page. We really only let 10 people in at a time. And so I want you to sign up. $199 investment. Trust me, it's worth so much more than that. You get the mental reset playbook right away, and then we will start in August. And I believe it's going to be the third Sunday in August. We do it on Sundays, and so an exact date will be there. You will know that it will be the third Sunday more than likely in August. Okay, so I want you to sign up. And at this point of the episode or this point of the podcast, it should be scheduled already. I'm just recording all of this early, but it more than likely will be scheduled. And it's for 6 weeks, Sundays from 7 p.m. Eastern to 9 p.m. Eastern for 2 hours. And we tap in, we lock in. So make sure that you are locked in with us. I pray Psalm 23, you see it in a new light. I pray you don't just quote it, but I pray you rest and know that God is with you in all of it. And I pray that this blessed you. Follow us at Girls Anthem Movement. Make sure you subscribe to our email list and subscribe to the magazine because those are two separate things. I don't automatically assume that if you're on the email list that you want to be on the magazine email list. So it is important that you subscribe to both, but just tap the link in the bio. You'll see all of it. And that way you will have updates about the locker room, and you will also be able to tap into our free resources on the website, on our magazine, and also follow us at Girls Anthem Movement on Threads, on Instagram, and on Facebook, and join the tribe. Follow your girl writer Maya, and I'll catch you in the next episode.